All right. Good evening, everybody. If you're watching this online, we are at the Joppatowne Christian Church building, and we are going to be having a business seminar starring Raj Goel from the Office of Economic Development. Sorry that you're not seeing any of us right now. There we go. Okay, now you should be seeing us. Raj, thank you for coming out here today. You're here to talk about Joppatowne area business stuff, and I'm just going to let you do that. So thank you for being here, and let me just make sure your microphone's on.
Sounds good, Adam. Can you hear me okay? Yep. Perfect. So, well, thanks for having me, Adam, and it's good to be here. Again, for those of you online that I've not had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Raj Goel, and I'm the Deputy Director at the Harford County Department of Economic Development. Obviously, our office, by its very name, the goal and the objective of our office is what we can do to support existing businesses and what we can do to attract new businesses into the county. The county executive, when he came into office more than 2.5 years ago, had a very decided platform, one of them being that economic growth, economic vitality is critically important to the future and the growth of this county. And so our mission is to come with new approaches, new ways of thinking, new ways of doing things in the hopes, again, of our two goals here of attracting new businesses and what we can do to help existing businesses. So with that in mind, and I guess our time together, and for those of you that are seated here in the room, I was really hoping to make this more conversational more than anything else. But I thought that what would be helpful is to talk about the resources of the office and some of the programs that we have in effect that would be of interest to those business owners in Joppatowne or those entrepreneurs thinking about setting up a business and becoming a future business owner in Joppatowne. So I'm hoping, regardless of which category you find yourself in, I'm hoping that all of the resources and the information that I have to convey here today, I'm hopeful will be helpful to both constituencies. So with that in mind, let me just kind of go through a few of the programs that I think, again, would be of interest, regardless of which category of entrepreneurship you fall yourself under. So the first and the most common question that we have that arises is access to capital. That if I need to start a business, if I need to grow a business, what funds are available to help me launch and to grow my business? So let me kind of talk from a multi-tier approach, because there's no kind of one size that fits all. There's no kind of one program that I could say here, this take care of everything. So the main program that we have in the county, and for those of you that are in the audience, I'm going to go ahead and hand out a flyer, which I'm hopeful that you have seen before, but perhaps if not, then this will be new. And Adam, I'll assume you can post or somehow, for future. But this is what's known as the Small Business Loan Program. Under the Harford County Economic Development Opportunity Fund, we have funds that can provide loans to existing businesses in Harford County. And these are businesses that have been operating for at least 1 year. And the purpose of this loan program is that we can lend up to $200,000 to businesses that are looking to make certain purchases and upgrades that ultimately, the objective of this fund is to increase and enhance the tax base of the county. And that could be done through purchasing a building or land that will be developed. It could be through renovations. It could be purchasing equipment. It could be purchasing technology upgrades, but things that could be expected to increase top-line revenue, things that can increase hiring, things that can increase capital expenditures. And so this is a a revolving fund, meaning that it's an open fund that can be applied at any time. There's no deadlines here. And basically, we can be very flexible with the terms, and we provide low interest rates. As I said, you can loan or make a request for a loan up to $200,000, so that is the max. And we do at a 3% interest rate. And oftentimes, the way this program is utilized is oftentimes what's known as a capital stack. That oftentimes, when you go and you get traditional financing, oftentimes lenders will require a certain amount, of their financing, but they're not going to finance the entire amount. So where this fund has been very useful are those folks that have gotten a certain amount of bank and traditional financing, but need a little bit more financing to get across the finish line. This loan program has been very instrumental in working with our financial institutions. Again, it's not required by any stretch, but I just share with you kind of how oftentimes the loan program has been utilized. So we have just completed, this program's actually been in existence on the books technically for many, many years, but went dormant. So we revived this about a year ago, and a little bit more than a year ago. And so now we've been pleased to say that we've closed 7 loans, and we have about 3 or 4 in the pipeline. So we really are trying to do a lot this last year to really try to promote. But of course, this may not be the right fit for everybody, and we appreciate that. And again, you may be in the startup phase. Again, this loan program would not be available. So having said that, one of the things that I would ask, and you'll see why I'm going to couch my words the way I am, is that if this loan program is not the right fit, we always welcome the opportunity to talk to an entrepreneur, whether they're in business or they're aspiring to go into business. We have access to a lot of programs at the state and federal level. Most of them, I will say, are loans. Oh, excuse me. And so a lot of the financial incentive programs that exist are oftentimes based on the geographic location of the business. It depends on what sector of the economy the business is focused in. Depends on the job growth that is being generated. So there's a lot of parameters. Sometimes it's the identity. There are a lot of programs that are there for if you are minority, women-owned, veteran-owned. So there's certain classes of entrepreneurship that the state has programs that is there to incentivize entrepreneurship in certain demographic groups. So once we have that opportunity to talk and have that, we can determine whether or not any of those programs are available. But I will say, in terms of, and we get this call repeatedly, I have an idea, I really feel confident about it, but I need and put in a 6-figure amount, and I really need this in the form of a grant. I'm not interested in a loan. Again, we want to be immensely helpful to our business community, but I will say I simply do not have 6-figure grants for someone that wants to start a business. That just does not. I can find perhaps small grants. For example, they just closed a small grant through Exelon to kind of promote entrepreneurship. We have access to private grants that, sometimes through financial institutions. And, again, there's no guarantee that you'll receive those grants, but, we at least can give you an opportunity to, at least know about it and make a good effort to apply for it. I would say that most of the time when people have startup needs, it's really going to be more in the form of a loan, whether it be a small, a low interest loan. And if we're not able to accomplish that, then there are other lenders that will be slightly high. If you can't get traditional funding, then we look at funding through SBA loans, Small Business Administration loans. So again, without getting overly technical here in this conversation, again, talk to us. Again, I know people sometimes leave our office disappointed that we're not able to give them the financing that they want, and I get it. But again, there's only a certain number of programs, and unfortunately, we don't have a program that can provide unlimited grants for people that want to get off the ground. But that doesn't mean that you can't get off the ground. Doesn't mean we can't fund other resources. But So again, we really do welcome those type of opportunities. So yeah, Tracy. Yeah, again, depending on, again, not big ones, not big grants, and again, it's really more of a timing. Again, there are sometimes certain grants that could come up through the state. Okay. Okay. Do you remember which one, that the name of it? Okay, okay.
We're talking about
Yeah.
existing grants for existing businesses. They can't hear you because you don't have a microphone in front of you.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, again, that's, okay. Okay, yeah. No, and oftentimes, it really can. And that's really where we'll at least try to find, and we, I was pleased that we went to a ribbon cutting. This happened to be in Havre de Grace. This was last Friday. And we were able to match up the business owner with a grant, about $15,000, but she said it made all the world in Havre de Grace. Yeah. Okay, so it made all the difference for that particular business owner. And again, I don't want to overpromise things, but at the end of the day, we will make every effort to at least let you know what grants are there, but most of the time they are, that $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. Again, there's no guarantees. Sometimes there are grants through the state, so we have very close partnerships. That's one of the roles of our office, is to be in close communications with state and federal partners. So as grants, and oftentimes they have very narrow windows in which to apply, we really do try to make an effort to try to find out about those and then try to promote those, through our newsletters, and especially if they're specific to a certain sector, kind of making sure that they're aware of it. I can't say the website is a work in progress. I'll be the first to admit that our website, we're in the process of, and this has been sort of ongoing, to upgrade it. So I would say the best way is to really just communicate directly with me, and I will, at least try to keep. So for example, there's for the manufacturing, there's a big push obviously for manufacturing, both at the state and federal level. And so there's one that is going to be open up soon for what's called 4.0 technologies to kind of help the manufacturing base. And so once we became aware of that, we pushed that out to all of the manufacturers in the county to make sure they're aware of it. So that's kind of our way of trying to be as proactive as we can. Again, nothing's ever perfect, but and certainly I would encourage you, if you're not on our newsletter, it's called Biz Bites. It's our monthly newsletter. That's where oftentimes those smaller grants that we speak of, we do actually try to make it a point to put that in that newsletter. So if you are not on the distribution list, certainly let me know, or you can contact the office, and we can certainly add you to the distribution list. So at least it's a monthly newsletter that you're assured of receiving, and oftentimes that will be an opportunity to become aware of some of those grants in case we don't have a chance to talk for some reason. So any other questions or comments or concerns that you want to talk about around financing? I figured let's just kind of methodically go through each of those topics, and if I can do justice. So Adam, is there any other thoughts? Or
maybe at the end, it would be appropriate to share how to contact you, where to sign up for those newsletters, how to get that information.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So we'll make sure to cover that before we shut off live.
Absolutely happy to do that. So, all right, perfect.
And I'll put it in the video description as well.
Yeah, no, that works out well. So the other thing, the next thing that we want to do is provide information to small businesses, again, either that are established or thinking about getting established. And we know that information like this could be hard to find, or if you come, the speaker will cover 12 different topics in the course of a 45-minute presentation, and you walk away feeling, I didn't get my questions addressed, I didn't get enough information, everything they had to say was superficial, and it really was not much more than I knew coming into it. So recognizing that and hearing that from our small business community, we will be kicking off what we call kind of our small business seminar series. And this will be where we can take individual topics that we know that will be of interest to the small business community, and taking that hour and a half to specifically focus on just that topic. So that way we can do justice and make sure that the people that are most interested in that topic can come. Recognizing that there's nothing more frustrating than coming to a seminar and you have one specific topic, you have no interest in the other topics, but you have to go through an hour, and then again, as I said, you kind of only get a couple minutes of your topic because the speaker's trying to cover too much. So we figured by breaking this out into 12 individual segments, one a month, roughly, sometimes we'll do 2 a month, that this will be able to really cater to the specific needs of people for that specific topic. And so where we will kick that off starting at August. So we'll have that information out shortly, but the first one will be on Tuesday, August the 26th. And we had a real push for a lot of folks that want to know about, and there's different topics that will go, and I'll give you a sampling of what those topics are in a moment. But the one that we'll be starting off with is a lot of people wanting to get into federal contracting. That with, despite the, things going on from a budgetary standpoint at the federal level, that there's lots and lots of opportunities for federal contracting, whether it be at Aberdeen Proving Ground, whether it be looking at other federal agencies or just other, other contracting opportunities in general. And so there's a real opportunity for not, of course, not every small business, but for a lot of small businesses. But of course, what are those opportunities? How do you access them? How do you get registered? All of that's going to be focused in on the August presentation, again, which will be Tuesday, August the 26th. Beyond that, we're going to be hitting on topics such as, you want to become an entrepreneur, what about thinking about franchising? So we're going to have a whole session on just talking about franchising. There's real good opportunities, for people to get into that space. We'll have a topic on, well, you have a business idea, but how do you really develop it through a business plan? How do you develop it through a marketing plan? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about topics like, you're ready to hire your first employee. What are the legal issues that you need to worry about? We'll talk about, you're thinking about setting up a business. Should I do an LLC, a partnership, C Corp, S Corp? And what are the pros and cons, and what are the advantages, and what is the right entity, and what are some of the financial considerations? What are the accounting considerations that I need to think about before I endeavor in terms of opening my business? So again, I give you that kind of a representative sampling of the topics. So we've got that all laid out. We've got a number of partners that will be helping us with the presentations. And again, you'll see kind of this systematic marketing of that to make sure that we have this opportunity to present that to the small business community. Again, we intend to make that a live presentation. We will record it, so that way it can be placed on website and shared with partners. So that way, if somebody is not able to come, or you meet an entrepreneur that gets on our radar screen 6 months from now and saying, oh gosh, I wish I had known about it, now we can provide that presentation to them. And these will be kind of ongoing videos that can live, and we'll refresh them and update them periodically. But we feel like that type of resource will be very instrumental and very helpful to the small business community. So again, put that on your probably the morning of Tuesday, August the 26th. And again, by that point, you'll not only get the flyer for that, but you'll also see the full panoply of presentations that will be made between now and the end of July of 2026. You'll have dates, you'll have times, locations, and that way that will hopefully help on the marketing of that and get the wording out to our entrepreneur community. So I think that was the second thing that I think would be of interest. The third thing is what I'll call kind of a miscellaneous, as we talk to business owners and, you really kind of learn about what are some of the pain points, what are some of the bottlenecks. One of the things that would be, that we hear repeatedly is access to good legal counsel, talking to an attorney. Not only where to find one, but they charge a lot. And so we were able to work with the Maryland State Bar Association, which is the governing organization of attorneys in the state of Maryland. And through the collaboration with them, we will have what's called the legal clinic for small businesses. And if you may permit me, I'm going to give you this flyer as well for the audience, and I'll give Adam one to you as well. So this is an opportunity to have a free consultation with a very well-established corporate attorney. Now, this is not meant and is not open to any business owner. There is income tests, so these are really designed for entrepreneurs that find themselves in some degree of financial straits. But I will say that the threshold is fairly healthy, that it should allow a lot of entrepreneurs to be able to access this. And on the flyer, you'll see it. It provides a free 1-hour session. Oftentimes, my experience, and again, there's no assurance that the attorney that you meet with will do it, but my own experience is that they oftentimes will meet for longer and will maintain a relationship with you. And if there's needed, ongoing, they oftentimes will provide additional services for discounted. But the point I'm making is that this cadre of attorneys, they get it. They want to help. They understand that paying and accessing and finding legal counsel can be difficult, and they really take this in a very serious way. So while this may not necessarily change and solve that issue among our business community, we feel like at least this is a step in the right direction. And so we're going to look at this really as a kind of a pilot program to see how it goes. So I would certainly encourage all of you, and there's certain dates that have been set aside. So the next one will be scheduled for July the 24th. The one after that will be on August the 28th. After that will be September 26th, and then we'll do October 24th. And they will be kind of online consultations. You can talk to them about almost any legal issue you want. I'm thinking about setting up a business. Can you look at a contract? Can you look at a lease? So there's a lot of flexibility that they'll provide to you. So again, this is going to be a pilot program. We're going to see how many people sign up. Let's see how it goes. If it's successful, then we'll look to see how we can scale it and expand it. We've had conversations with our own Harford County Bar Association. And so the outcome of this, we've got several corporate attorneys, more local, that are willing to provide 2 and 3 hour consultations for a minimal fixed fee. So again, an effort to try to make legal services more affordable and more accessible to our small business community. Again, subject to limit and certain financial tests, so that way we just can't open up to anybody. So again, not a perfect system, as I said, but I think one that hopefully will be able to provide some good resources to folks that are in need of good legal counsel. And beyond that, we have a lot of resources similar to this. So if you need help, writing a marketing plan, if you need help developing a business plan, if you need help about how to use QuickBooks and how to keep good records, almost any aspect of the life cycle of a business, that's another reason I want to be able to talk with that business owner, because there are a lot of partners that we have through the chambers of commerce that exist in the county, through the Small Business Development Center, what's known as SBDC, SBA, Small Business Administration, SCORE, which is the Society of Retired Executives. There is a number, and I'm just giving you the tip of the resources, but there are so many organizations that are there and willing to meet with an entrepreneur to kind of solve and address a specific issue, a specific problem that you have. And they're for free, and they're there. And sometimes it's an online program where you can kind of do it at your own demand. Sometimes it's a one-on-one session that can be done virtually or in person. So again, there's just so many resources that I feel that get underutilized because they're just not known. So again, we really are trying to push a lot of those resources to make sure they're available, and those are the type of resources that we're going to push as we market the Small Business Series and our newsletters to make sure that people access the videos, they access these resources, they know about it. And again, once I kind of know what business you are in, what pain points you have, what issues you're trying to solve, it's almost inevitable that at least we'll have a resource that we can send you to so you can talk to and get in-depth information and some guidance that will help you address that situation. So again, so that's sort of the the third topic I would say. The first topic being the loan and access to capital. Second being the seminar series. Third would be kind of various resources that are available. And then the other things that I want to chat with you about again is what are the other opportunities to kind of grow our business community, and how are we attracting? We spend an inordinate amount of time both in, out of the county, sometimes out of the state, talking to businesses that are looking to relocate, looking to expand. We spend a lot of time at trade shows and conferences in an effort to make sure that people are aware of Harford County, aware of the opportunities and why this would be a good place for their specific business. One of the observations that we have made is that as a county, historically, that Harford County has not really done much to promote itself. People don't know about Harford County. They have sort of what I'll call antiquated ways of thinking about our community. And I think once they start realizing, you start engaging with people about what type of industries are here, I mean, you will be blown away if you really don't know the business community here. Small businesses, retail, but when you go into technology, when you go into the defense industry, when you talk about manufacturing, some of the most amazing manufacturing companies are based right here in Harford County, paying really good jobs and really expanding the tax base in a very effective way. And we have those opportunities that we can attract other synergistic businesses. And so we spend a lot of time in that world trying to recruit. And again, it doesn't happen easy, it doesn't happen overnight. You're almost in a trench warfare with other states that are trying to attract those same businesses. But we really have a very, very, very solid business environment. And really what the biggest selling point that we have here is our access to our workforce. We have very, very good school system, very good public school system, Harford Community College, resources, a sense of community, a sense of open space, things that employers know that they need to really attract and retain good employees. And while they may be able to go to other states that are willing to pay them significant upfront financial incentives, those businesses inevitably have a difficult time attracting and retaining their workforce because those states don't oftentimes provide the same amenities that we have. We really do have a very special place here. When you think about safety, when you think about education, a sense of community, a sense of open space, recreation, social, a sense of belonging. Harford County is the top of the list, and that is known by employers that are here, and that's really the story that we spend a lot of time talking about. But to make this more helpful to you, when we think about opportunities, and I'm going to share another flyer that I think will be of interest, at least more for maybe this won't be necessarily relevant to everyone here that's seated here, but just to kind of share with you some of the innovative approaches that we're trying to bring. So this is what we call the Technology Acceleration Summit. So this will be held on Tuesday, August 19th at 8:30 at the Toone Building, which is located on the campus of Harford Community College. And let me kind of give you a context of why we're doing this and what the importance of this is about. So we appreciate that our largest employer in Harford County is Aberdeen Proving Ground. And one of the things that has been identified is that at Aberdeen Proving Ground, which is the preeminent research and development arm of the U.S. Army, that there is a significant amount of intellectual property new ideas and new technologies that are being created. But yet, what happens is that oftentimes it gets to a certain point and stops because there's no one there to develop and to take that technology and to develop it, whether it be for government purposes, for the mission of the U.S. Army, or for commercial application, or sometimes both. So we're excited about this. This is the first time we're doing this, where we've taken the opportunity to bring folks from Aberdeen Proving Ground to talk about what exactly are those technologies that are sitting more or less dormant that are ripe for development. And by bringing a class of entrepreneurs that are in that technology space, whether they're aspiring entrepreneurs, whether they're already established entrepreneurs, that what we're trying to hopefully do is bring opportunity to them so they become aware and they can better connect with Aberdeen Proving Ground to perhaps get into those type of partnerships and relationships that they are able to form to be able to develop those technologies, which in turn will allow the entrepreneur to develop their business and to grow their business, to hire our local employees, and really to build an ecosystem where, and there's certain technologies that you will not find, frankly, anywhere else in the world. And we think that we can really build an ecosystem around some of those developing technologies, and we feel like that will be an opportunity to really attract and really put Harford County on the map, not only regionally, but frankly, nationally. And we think that we've got the story and we've got the channels in which we can sell that. But again, these are the type of things that we need to further develop in order to get those opportunities off the ground. So I just share that with you as just another idea, but it is something that for those of you that are interested in perhaps thinking about business opportunities, whether or not you're in the tech space or not, I think this will be something that will be somewhat enlightening and perhaps going to open up some opportunities that were not open before. So, so again, I share all of that, and maybe as I, talk more about now about Joppatowne, I know there's a lot of questions about, what's going on in Joppatowne, and what is your office doing to try to help and spur development in Joppatowne. I think the two focal points of Harford County government, of course, that there's been a recent acquisition by the marina that took place not too long ago. So obviously the owners are implementing, trying to launch and going through the permitting process to be able to bring that marina back to life in the form that they've, have articulated publicly. And so to the extent that, we just try to ensure that, they are able to, get the information and access to the processes in county government and beyond to make sure that they can continue to move their projects. So, we're hopeful that in time that we'll see, and I think, the things that I've heard, probably which is the same as what you've heard, just looking in the months and really more the years to come, I'm very kind of excited to see, their vision of trying to bring that job, the marina back to life. So I think that there'll be some certainly opportunities there, and hopefully bring back the sense of what the marina used to be, when we all were growing up here. The other is the Joppatowne Shopping Plaza. We stay in close communication with the landlord and really looking for ideas and, trying to, keep those lines of communication open for, further development, bringing in new tenants, capital expenditures, perhaps some expansion, but really to kind of bring it anew and really kind of bring back to life. And again, having grown up here, having shopped there and, going with my parents and, I think we all remember for those of us that have, grown up in this county, what the vibrancy and, what that shopping plaza meant and does still mean to the community. And so we're continuing. I wish I could sit here and announce, that, something more tangible and more specific. These are ongoing and, of course, we're not patient, but at the end of the day, we really are trying to work as much as we can with the the owner to try to get, those capital expenditures. And, we're trying to think of new ideas and looking at grant opportunities and other things. Nothing has come to fruition. I regret to say it, here we are today, but it is not without, effort, time. We really do want to see it. And I would say it's not only Joppatowne, but really the whole Route 40 corridor. And, so we've got some opportunities we've got some things going on in Edgewood, and we're hoping, again, some of those are pilot programs, and then we can kind of adopt and expand and look at those same opportunities for Joppatowne. So it's, I know it's not necessarily satisfactory. I know people have been wanting, and they've been asking, and really desirous of seeing that change happen, and I assure you that we are as well. But I also get it that, until you see progress and see action, it's just words at this point. But the best I can continue to say until I'm a broken record, and maybe I'm a broken record at this point, is that we'll continue with those efforts and try to bring that new life that we all want and desire for the Joppatowne Shopping Plaza. Please,
Question.
Adam. Please.
So one of the things that you and I have talked about is, and that I think people in Joppatowne might benefit from, are partnerships that maybe the Office of Economic Development could help to connect some of the business owners to other organizations, the Harford County Chamber of Commerce,
Absolutely.
the Route 40 Business Association. Even, I don't know, I haven't heard if they're still meeting, but the Revitalization Committee that talks about Route 40. All of those things, I think sometimes it's easy to forget Joppatowne because we're at the end of the line, and there's no room for advancement beyond the Gunpowder River as far as Harford County is concerned. But it is something where, with a new marina, with new opportunities, with new housing that's being developed, with the new community center that is supposed to be coming, there are opportunities here. And I'm hoping to see some of that development and some of that excitement return to Joppatowne.
I think the excitement is starting to build up. I kind of alluded to it earlier about, partnerships and us having the ability to connect. So, as a business, approaches us, we can definitely get them connected, with various organizations. So, Adam, you've correctly noted, there's some really good chambers of commerce. So you've mentioned, Harford County Chamber of Commerce, you've got the Route 40 Business Association as two of the well-known ones that really are, focused in, not only general business growth, but, specifically on Route 40. And so, we really do encourage, and again, both organizations offer a lot of great amenities, especially from a marketing standpoint. But beyond that, as I said, if you need certain business help, I've mentioned SBA, SBDC. If you need help with workforce, hiring your new employees, and this has come up very nicely with some of our local manufacturing companies that are here in Joppatowne and the Edgewood area. The Susquehanna Workforce Network has been very helpful. But let me maybe give another example that might be more tangible and helpful. So as I said, we keep up with a lot of the resources that are offered through the state, and one of the real focal points is childcare and getting access to good childcare, whether that be home-based childcare or center-based care. So one of the so there's been some grants that have been awarded to certain organizations that if you are an entrepreneur wanting to expand from a home-based to a center-based, having actually a center located in the community, that they can provide and help you with all the regulatory and all the licensing at no charge to you. Of course, that doesn't mean that, once you go through them, voila, you can be a center. You still need to find a place. You still need to get proper, clearances from the state. You still need to, think about cash flow and think about your business plan and marketing. But again, those are the type of resources that for anyone that may be thinking about opening up a center for childcare, those are the type of things that we can certainly provide. Or if you are a home-based chair, there's a lot of folks that have not received their proper certification and licensing. again, the state wanting to see them get their licensing and certification, there's another grant for another organization that will help those child care providers to be able to get the certification and get proper licensing, again, at no cost to the business owner. So, again, once we really can talk and get to know the business owner and just kind of see what they need, what their long-term vision is, and a lot of times if they can't articulate it, we can sometimes help with the basic information they provide us, but make sure that they get into, as you said, Adam, the right partnerships and making sure that they have the right collaborations. Because again, our office is there, and while we're here to help, we don't have all the resources. We don't have all of but we oftentimes know where to go to, and sometimes that's half the battle.
One of the things that you mentioned was the Joppatowne Plaza shopping center, and I've lived here for 12 years. And in that time, I've seen more things move out of the shopping center than I've seen move in. In fact, really, the only thing that has moved in is a soccer academy that is kind of shoved to the corner. A lot of people probably don't even know that's there. And I guess we did demolish a Pizza Hut and replace it with a Dunkin' Donuts / Baskin Robbins that has now lost the Baskin Robbins. And one of the things that I think would be beneficial when I think about economic development is it makes a lot of sense when you're talking to the landlord and the businesses that are already there. But if we can make Joppatowne a more attractive place through things like the marina and make this a community that people seek out, that people want to spend time in, I think that that's something where it would be easier to convince businesses to move in.
You're absolutely
In
right.
that, the Joppa Development and Heritage Corporation is in the process. We've been trying to get part of the Gunpowder State Park land that's behind the Joppatowne Plaza Shopping Center ceded over to Harford County so that it's no longer state park land because the state park doesn't want to patrol it. They don't want to have their rangers clean it up. If Harford County was able to acquire that land, Joppa Development and Heritage Corporation has a committee that's already ready to be the friends of that park. And so if we could start with something like that to create trails, a network of trails and things, that is something that I think would be easier to pitch to a business that's looking for a place to be. Hey, look at this new thing that's coming. Why is it so hard to get those things moving when you have active people who are willing to do a lot of the work, but it just seems like every time we try to do it, it's like we're hitting our head against a wall?
So your comments are well taken that, of course, the county executive had created the Southern Harford Task Force. And I think we feel confident and good that there has been, progress in this administration, more cleanups, road pavings, code enforcement. There's been the, acquisition of various parcels of land, including Mariner, Park, as ways, and we do agree that quality of life makes a big issues and make a big difference for economic vitality. So, so those, I think a lot of things have taken place. Again, I think like the comment that you made about, acquiring the land, I know that, there's been, I've heard conversation, I'm not well versed enough to talk specifically where things stand with that, but I know there's been a lot of talk about it. How do you make this more walkable and more pedestrian friendly, bicycle friendly, bike trails, connecting neighborhoods to the parks. That's the type of thing, and I think that's what you're talking about. Your direct question about, why is this not happening? It's, and again, it's not a satisfactory answer, and not one that I, take pride. It's just, not only do we have to go through the wheels of, of government, but, again, it's not just confined at the local level. You've got state partners, and you've got sometimes federal. It's sometimes the bureaucracy, and again, we're, always trying to push that as much as we can, as fast as we can. What's our priority here locally, which Joppatowne is, not necessarily a priority for somebody in another state agency or federal agency. And so, That's why our county executive does spend a lot of time at the state level, at the federal level, doing a tremendous amount of advocacy to try to make sure that these issues don't get lost. And so I feel like, the issues that I hear about, I feel optimistic that, progress is being made. But again, I know from the standpoint of, the community, until it happens, it's like, well, it's just words, and I get it. But as I said, just to kind of repeat the earlier presentation, is that, efforts are being made, and we feel like this is the first time, either in a long time or ever, that at least these conversations and pushing these agendas and really trying to promote, these initiatives. And we feel like we're just trying to make up for a lot of lost time. And I know there's been a lot of lost time. I've seen it. So, but at the end of the day, the county executive is just immensely, immensely committed to this, because at the end of the day, once we develop, let's just say, the Southern Harford, the Route 40 corridor, we have so much, redevelopment, repurpose. I mean, there's so much opportunity. It just really will just take everything to a whole different level in this community, in not only the community but the county. That's why it's so important to us.
What are some things that? So one of the things I appreciated that you talked about is, for example, making access to childcare easier for people in communities, makes it easier for business, makes it easier. All of life can be easier if you have help with another area that takes up a lot of your time and energy and money. And so I think what I'd like to see is some more of the whole community working together. I'd like to see more of the county agencies working together. It's one of the things I see the intent behind the Southern County Task Force, but I don't always see the results. But what are some things from your perspective that the community or that business owners could do tangibly to help you help us, or help the county at all in general help us?
Yeah. So I think identifying issues and problems that perhaps, maybe that have arisen. So for example, we got a call from a business owner, not necessarily Joppatowne, but not too far from here, that some of the more recent construction is having an impact on, that individual's business, and is there anything we can do? So we're trying to see, can we do some signage? Is there a way to accelerate? This is all state highways. So again, back to that issue, not everything is under our control, but seeing what we can do to try to see we can, is there going to be a close date? So just trying to be an advocate, so just kind of hearing what's going on out. What do you need? If there's resources that we can bring back to what we talked about from an economic development standpoint. But I would say the biggest thing that could be of help to me, and economic development, when I say me, economic development, and would be, I think there'd be two things. One is identifying if you know of a business, someone that's like a home-based business looking to go into a bricks and mortar, or someone that wants to get and start and become entrepreneurial, but just doesn't know where to start. Like, there's nothing like getting homegrown business and homegrown entrepreneurship. That's someone who's going to be 1,000% committed because they've grown up here and they have a vision and they have a dream and they live here. That's something palpable that really can change communities. So getting in front of them, sometimes I hear that those folks exist in the community, but then my response is I don't hear from them. I don't see them. So where is this burgeoning group, and why are they not? And if there's an impediment, maybe there's something historical. Is there something that has not done, or we're not communicating in the right places, the right times, the right messaging, the right information? If there's impediments, we need to know that. Sometimes we don't always have the answers, but you're the eyes and ears of the community. So let us know. And and back to the Southern Harford, be engaged. I mean, if there's something about the process that is leaving something to be desired, again, the purpose of the Southern Harford is to make sure that the information is being brought up and bubbled to all the departments, so you have that cross collaboration. You know, if that's not happening, or you feel like someone's dropping the ball, the county executive absolutely positively wants to hear that. Absolutely. Do not be shy to say that, you know, this is an impediment. Now just because, you know, we hear it, if, he will always listen. Is there maybe something else is in the works? You know, I mean, but if we don't hear it, it's hard. And just because it doesn't happen doesn't mean it's being ignored. And if there's something that needs to have a timeline, then, in the open source, like, talk about what is the timeline, so that way there can be accountability and you have expectations. So something that you think will take 1 or 2 months might take a year or two for any number of reasons that are things out of our control. So I think that the more we can just kind of communicate, if we don't communicate and we don't have these conversations, then we know status quo will just persist. And that's just unacceptable. We've already had that for way too many decades.
I think you know that I'm willing to have those conversations because you've been on the other end of those. And I will say,
That's okay.
Thank you for taking my phone calls and still
of
talking
course.
to me.
You're passionate, you care about the community, so.
But part of that is, like, one of the things that I appreciate you coming down here. I appreciate that. Jeff, who's here, he went and handed out flyers to so many different business owners in Joppatowne. And
Thanks.
I think there are so many people who, there's a general attitude of, well, I just want the government to leave me alone. Jeff said that. Some of the people said that. I just want to be left alone. I want to do my own thing.
Sure.
But I think there is something to be said for, it's been a long time. There have been things that have been, well, we're working on this, we're doing this, and that progress isn't seen all the time. I know that Harford County government's ability to change some of that is limited. It's not like you can just snap your fingers and things change. But I do think that, we've mentioned the landlord of the Joppatowne Plaza shopping center, and we've seen some of the issues that have happened over in Edgewood where it seems like things, that company seems to be dragging their feet sometimes. They're not as responsive to the business owners, some of which are here right now. What are things that can be done to help make it feel like it's not David versus Goliath, but maybe there's some help in that particular regard?
Well, please. I mean, I just talked to one business owner that's in the plaza that didn't really know kind of how to start the conversation on some upgrades that perhaps they need for their specific bay. But I'm absolutely happy to communicate with the landlord. They've always been very responsive to me, and I'm certainly happy to facilitate those communications. I'm happy to be part of the communications and stay involved in the communications, if that would help perhaps move, some of the shared interests, that are needed. So, please.
Could we possibly get a timeline on the redevelopment of the shopping center? Meaning,
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to provide that, but I'm not sure that the plan. It's one thing if we have a plan, then we say, okay, well, what's the timeline? I think we're still trying to find what that plan is to try to. Okay. Okay.
Cordish has a plan.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay.
I'm not sure where we're going with it.
Okay. Yeah. Then you very well might know more about the redevelopment than perhaps I know. So.
And he does respond.
Yeah.
He does respond.
Yeah. I said I've had nothing but good dealings with with the owner, the landlord, the representative. They've always been very responsive. I know there's been I hear what some of the business owners have said, but I'm happy to facilitate as much as I can.
Where do the businesses that are in there now, where do we go from here? How can we make it better? How can we get people in there? Because once people are in there,
Yeah.
we will make
Yeah,
more
no,
revenue.
I just feel like all we need is a couple, couple retailers to get in there, and then the rest will take care of itself. So,
How do we do that?
well, I'll share with you one of the things I've been working on. So I've been going to trade shows where I get to talk to the actual national retailers, and you talk to the representative who actually deals with this area, meaning like usually they do like Mid-Atlantic, maybe Maryland, and they're the ones who make the decisions about placement of a new store or, franchise. Sure. Yeah, yeah. So what we're doing is we really are, so we're spending time educating. A lot of times, they use these computer programs and it doesn't check off all their boxes, so they move on to another community. But I don't know that that's really a fair assessment of Joppatowne. If you really kind of get to know Joppatowne and you really look at, the community, the demographics, the income, there's a great story. I think all of us that either have a touch point or live in Joppatowne know that. So sometimes it's just having them pause for a moment to tell them that story. And so we really are spending time having those conversations. And, as long as they don't say no to me, sometimes they do say no. Just, it doesn't work for any number of reasons. And they all have their business models and they know what they're doing. Sometimes it's as simple as, well, we got a store in White Marsh and we like to keep things at least 30 miles from each other. So, they know what they're doing. These are national retailers, they're very successful. But I do enjoy the fact to say, when I get the let me look at this a little bit more carefully. At least it's not a no. They could easily say no and move on. So I'm hopeful, and again, maybe just that by having these conversations and educating, it can build a demand and an access to a lot of people. That shopping plaza, you think about the community, within walking distance, the amount of traffic, you got not only Harford County, but you also got Baltimore County. It's a really strategic location. And if we can just get, as I said, just a handful, start doing, and then when they come in, they're going to require upgrades. And again, they have models in terms of what their stores, the build out, what it needs to be. And at the end of the day, the landlord, is in the business to have leases. A vacant storefront doesn't make them money, but having a lease that will come in. And so we're going to help. And I know, and I've seen the landlord and and their representatives at these same trade shows. So it makes me pleased that they're there, trying to cultivate. But of course, they're national in scope. And I'm gonna tell the Southern Harford story, and making sure that somewhere along from Edgewood to Joppatowne that we can get, because it just once you get a certain point, it's going to take over. I'm very confident in that. And again, we are looking at grants that maybe can help facilitate the build out. So we're trying to be very creative about things like that. And we're trying to think of, are there, nonprofits, are there other things that we can build around that will bring people and provide a much needed resource. And then, knowing that that's going to bring a certain number of people, maybe that makes it more attractive to a retailer. That absolutely will help. But that in itself is not going to get us over the hump. It's going to help immensely, and we're very excited about that. But again, we got to keep adding to this. And at a certain point, we can just sit back and the market will take care of itself. That's the only choice we have.
I agree with everything you've said about attracting new businesses. Joppatowne has a story to tell. Edgewood has a story to tell. Very similar story to Joppatowne.
Yeah.
But both towns, very similar story to tell, with a lot of history, a lot of potential. But a lot of that potential is tied up and limited by how we look physically, as buildings, as shopping centers. And I understand that it's one landlord that owns a bunch of them. What kind of feedback are you getting from him? So I drive all over the place. I drive through Harford County, Baltimore County.
Yeah.
You look at places like White Marsh, Hunt Valley, Abingdon, the Festival, Bel Air. They have booming retail and economic sectors within their communities. And they look a lot more physically appealing.
Yeah.
For someone who's never driven through the Route 40 corridor, driving through Joppatowne and Edgewood in a lot of ways doesn't look
Yeah.
like some place that someone who's never been here wants to stop. A big part of that is it's going to fall on the landowner, and whether it's one guy or whether it's multiple different landowners is irrelevant.
Yeah.
What kind of feedback are you getting? How much of investment are they willing to make? Because, like I said, a big part of it in attracting those new businesses and then attracting those new shoppers and potentially new residents to live and shop here and employees to work at those new businesses. A lot of it is, I don't want to move in that shopping center because it looks like the landlord doesn't take care of it, and he doesn't care, and he just wants to put a unit, put a business in a unit and collect his monthly rent.
So, yeah, no, we totally appreciate that the facade, as you call it, has a big impact on a lot of things, just even the feeling within the community, right? So, so let me talk about what we can control, and then I'll talk about what we don't necessarily can control and how that'll be more, Jeff, more specific to your question. But that's why we've really have been spending a lot of time with the Southern Harford Task Force on community cleanups and paving and really trying to spruce things up. We've also been very aggressive on grants. So it used to be, historically, we would get funds for a facade loan program, meaning that we would loan to a business owner, funds that could help them do those upgrades. But at the end of the day, very few people were ever taking advantage of it because they would just say, look, Raj, pure economics, I'm going to still have to pay you back. And I'm still not going to get the return on that investment. And my margins are thin. I've got fill in the blank of these other expenses. So they're like, that doesn't work for us. So we said, okay, let's try it a different way. And so we just unveiled, now this will be more specific to Edgewood. This was a grant that we received last year. We actually just started it this fiscal year, when I say this year, starting July 1st. So this is the Edgewood Facade Grant Program. Again, another pilot program. Whereas we got $200,000 from the state of Maryland for the purposes of improving signage and cleaning things up and really sprucing up storefronts when it comes to retail and commercial properties. So the demand, not surprising, has been really good because it's a grant program. So the way we're working it is that if the grant is up to $10,000, no cost sharing. If you do more than $10,000, then we'll have anywhere from a 10 to 20% cost sharing. But still, that's still, we think, and I think the feedback that we got from our business community is that that's much more in line with what we would want. That we'll have some skin in the game, but we still can look to that as a grant to start really improving the facade of a lot of these commercial units. We've got another grant in. Fingers crossed that the state will accept that for this fiscal year. And again, it really will be very helpful to the type of conversation that we're having. So that's the way we're trying to approach it, because at the end of the day, everyone agrees we need to make it look better. But the universal feedback is that from a pure economic standpoint, I, as a business owner, I, as a landlord, I'm not going to get my rate of return, and we can't make them, can't do that, from that standpoint. And then to your question, directly, we really are, we have a lot of conversations with the landlord of the big shopping plazas and showing, one of the experiences that we had, this happened to be at the Edgewater Village Shopping Plaza, the Edgewood Plaza, and the landlord and the county executive were able to meet, and he wanted to show us, how the back was filled with mattresses and garbage, and he went back and looked around, and it was completely spick and span. And the county executive took great pride in saying that, we're doing community cleanups. It's all gone, because the community will start taking more pride. When it's all garbage, then you don't care. When you start seeing it, you really, you try to take some pride, and the community, and people really are engaged, and a lot of great organizations. So I think, Adam, again, back to something you said, one of the things we can do, and I know you guys are active, I think the more we can just get and build that sense of community, it does have palpable benefits. But again, we're always advocating for all of our landlords to make that investment, to take it's not even taking a chance, it's an investment, that you put that in there, you're going to get a return on that, because you will be able to attract better leases, more tenants. And so you kind of look at that as your return on investment.
Better in theory,
Everything rises. Everything rises.
The rent's going to go up a little bit. Hopefully
Yeah.
not too much, Tracy,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the better you do, landlords should see a little bit of that. But hopefully it's because he's reinvesting into the property.
That's right.
And I understand we can't make him do anything with the property other than
Yeah.
like the example I gave. And I don't expect every shopping center on look like you're driving through Hunt Valley Town Center, because it's a different market, and I get that. But you drive through, like, you go to Wegmans in Abingdon or Giant in Abingdon
Yeah.
versus our shopping center. There's trees in the parking lot. There's grass on the medians.
That's right. You feel good about it.
It looks welcoming.
Yes.
You pull into Joppatowne Plaza, and it's a fairly decently paved, flat parking lot. That's it. And it's not well painted, as far as the parking lines. And it could use some work. It could use a little bit of love, even if it's just repaving.
I think we all are in total agreement.
And then I did have another question on the facade grants. I understand that's for this fiscal year, that's an Edgewood exclusive program, and I understand why that is. As that expands, assuming that, the businesses and the county do a really good job of utilizing all $200,000
We got a proven
from the
track.
state.
We got a proven track record.
Absolutely. And I have no doubt that with the county and some of the partners that are in Edgewood, that's going to happen. I have no doubt in my mind. As that expands, are there limitations, because it is a state grant, as far as who can receive them? I guess my concern is that, we've got this huge international conglomerate for a landlord. They're not eligible for a grant because they're a multi-billion-dollar company. Are there things like that to be concerned about?
Well, we don't want one big landlord coming in and taking all the money. Sure. Like that's we want to really make sure this is very equitable to all of our property owners. But having said that, we are looking to expand the amount of money that we can get from the grant. If we can show a proven track record, the state's willing to invest. We're spend a lot of time talking to our partners at the state level, showing that we can make things happen and show from the state's perspective the return on their investment, which is what they're looking for. So, it's again, if this process had started 10 years ago, 15 years ago, think about where we'd be right now. And that's the thing. We're starting now. Just can't make up for lost time. That's exactly. And so, and that's where, and again, I know these are not always satisfactory answers, and it's frustrating because but we're trying, at least for the first time we can say, I don't know the last time, I don't think anyone's ever been able to say that we have a $200,000 grant for a facade. I don't think that's ever been reported in the history of Harford County. At least we got it. And we've got a big one in for this year, and how do we expand the boundaries so that way, because some of this, there are, who can get the funds, back to your point, we're looking at all of that, to see that, how do we go ahead and incorporate other parts of the county that can perhaps benefit from these same programs?
Along those lines, our church building is right on the border between Edgewood and Joppatowne. And I want all the best for Edgewood. I really do. But Edgewood has a sustainable community designation. Edgewood Road has a Main Street designation. There's this facade grant that is exclusive to Edgewood. Yeah. I'm now sitting on a task force that is for microtransit, and the only places in Harford County that this program is being piloted is Aberdeen and Edgewood. which I think is a great place to be. But when I sat in the initial, well, when we sat in the initial thing,
Yeah.
the entirety of Joppatowne is labeled as this is exactly the kind of place that this needs to be programmed, that this needs to be piloted, and our transit only goes halfway into Joppatowne.
Yeah.
Why is it that when I'm looking at things that people have developed where it's like Joppatowne would be a primary location for this, why is it that Edgewood is the only place that these things go and Joppatowne doesn't get any of these opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, somebody, like all these decisions were made well before this administration to create those boundaries. Like they don't happen, didn't happen overnight, right? So we're looking at them at that very issue. How do you go about, and sometimes you have to wait for the renewal periods. They come in 5-year increments. So without having to wait that long, is there a way that we can try to accelerate that? And just even if we just get a part of it's just these get a foothold in the conversation. So we're absolutely looking into that.
We're also talking about non-census. There's no actual boundary. There is no actual Edgewood, and there's no actual Joppatowne. There's no city limit. There's no town line.
You're right. But in terms of these designated zones,
There's
streets,
census tracts. I understand, but I don't understand how and I know you were on the meeting, but for the benefit of everybody, half of Edgewood comes to Joppatowne High School, or half of Woodbridge at the very least comes to Joppatowne High School.
Yeah.
And so a lot of those lines really do blend. I think you would be hard pressed. For example, the Exxon on the corner of 152 and 40, that's technically Joppa if you talk to the post office.
Yeah.
But the sheriff's office is Edgewood if you talk to.
So they consider that Edgewood.
And so it's one of these things where it just seems like if some of these things were able to come to Joppatowne, 1 or 2 things, a microtransit program or something like that, so that people could get to Edgewood or people from Edgewood could get to Joppatowne, that would be a benefit.
And just to be clear, the census tract in itself do not dictate the boundaries for these programs. But there are, if you go to the state and you say, these certain designations, sustainable community, Main Street, there actually is boundaries. You can go online. There's no mystery to what those boundaries are. So those boundaries, so some of these grant programs that are attributable to those designated zones.
I know. I've seen the maps.
Yeah,
I know
okay.
why those. I know that those boundaries are there on those maps.
Right. Okay.
But when the decision is made, hey, where are we going to draw that boundary?
Yeah.
Once the boundary is drawn, I understand. But why is it that the boundary is never drawn around Joppatowne? It's drawn around Aberdeen.
That's my point. Again, these were put in place. If I remember, I think this goes back to even 2008. So I can't go historically. Somebody had to put together an application to create those boundaries in the first place. So somebody, in county, state government came up with something, and that is what we inherit. Okay, so that's the deck of cards, as the old saying. That's the deck of cards you're dealt. So what I'm suggesting to you, fully appreciate what you have to say. Even before, and it wasn't even based, you did a great job of advocating that at the microtransit meeting, because I was, as you know, was there. But this is well before just kind of looking at what is it going to take to maybe rethink of this. So that way this was done 15 years ago, different conversation, but it wasn't. So here we are, and if we don't do anything about it, then we could be sitting here another 12 years, 13 years, and nothing happens. So I can honestly say that we are looking at that in earnest to see, and it's come up in my conversations with the state, and it's something that we're focusing on, because that perhaps can open up some new opportunities, but for that conversation.
I appreciate having this conversation. I appreciate having it now because we are, as you mentioned, the marina. Tracy and I had a chance to talk before this meeting started, and the marina could be viewed as a pretty direct competitor to Town Grill. But what has happened is people have gone to the marina and business at the pub has actually increased. We're getting to a point.
It should, yeah, no, and it should just continue to feed. That's why, if we can build, a couple more retailers and there's more traffic, then you want to come. And, you can go shopping, we got something to eat. I mean, that's how all the most successful shopping plazas.
Well, and we're seeing things like the Joppatowne Recreation / Community Center, in theory, should be getting its start. We should be seeing some movement on that probably next year. If we can get this park thing with the state worked out, then we have we have a real potential. There are some big dominoes that are starting to fall through things that, again, they've been falling in part because of what the county's done, in part because of what the community's done. But now seems to be the time that if we do have an opportunity to draw those maps, if we have an opportunity to look at this, Joppatowne and Edgewood are tied in I don't imagine one without the other. I know that there's the high school rivalry and everything, but our fates are tied together.
Yeah.
I don't think it's something where it would hurt Edgewood in any way if Joppatowne were to get a boost in the way that when Edgewood gets all of these things, I'm very happy because we do see some of the spillover effects.
Yeah, we don't look at this as we look at this as a region. We really do. And if we get the region to be successful, everything is going to benefit. The county, even someone in the north end of the county, is going to benefit from prosperity here, literally where we're standing.
Things that the county executive, when he was campaigning, we had an election for him in this room, and he said things like that. We want to lift up some of the historically, less advantageous parts of the county so that we can all benefit. And I think that this is a real opportunity to do it. I know, not a huge burgeoning crowd for this. We'll see how the online thing goes, but at the same time, it is something where, one of the things I appreciate about Joppatowne is we have a blue-collar mentality. I'm going to do it myself. But at the same time, if we can facilitate some of this, here's a goal, or here's something that we can work on together, or even if, when John Peters was at the Community Advisory Board meeting talking about Edgewater Village Shopping Center, he talked about a playground that technically they own, but they cede to the county for $1 a year. Just places to gather, places to be, reasons that people stay here instead of going to White Marsh, instead of going to Bel Air, instead of even going to Edgewood. Just we have that now with the marina. I've gone to the marina twice, and I've seen 15 people that I've known every single time. There are people who want to be here.
Yeah,
They want to
no doubt. We think the marina. The marina. We think Copperplex. In Edgewood. We really think that'll be the start. Brings people in, and hopefully try to get them over to places like the pub. And to the extent, and I'll offer this, if they're not known to you, like if the folks the operators of Copperplex are not aware of you, let's make sure we deal with that, because they're in a position to, their families, there's hundreds of families, thousands of families coming in every weekend. They're looking for places to go and eat. And if they don't know about you, then you're off the radar screen. Yeah, so those are the small things we could try to do. And it doesn't solve everything, but things like that.
Well, we've been going for about 80 minutes now, so I think I'm going to give you a rest, but maybe we can have a smaller conversation just offline. I want to thank everybody who does watch this live stream. Eventually, I'm going to make sure that all of the stuff is loaded on there. Raj, thank you for coming down. I really do appreciate it. As I said, and I'll say it at the end so that when people are, don't take your microphone off just yet because you need to give us your contact information. As I said before, I want people to understand, you are you are the most responsive person in the county as far as I'm concerned. So I really do appreciate that. If you could just share your contact information with people just for the live stream, I'll put it on here too, but just to make sure everybody has it.
Yeah, my always can be reached by phone. My phone number is area code 410-638-4832. Again, 410-638-4832. And you can send me an email at rkgoel, that's RKGOEL, at Harford County, spelled out, MD.gov. So that's rkgoel, RKGOEL, at Harford County, all spelled out, MD.gov. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Raj. I really appreciate it.